get my grotty fly tying shirt on. Right. Ba 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 ba. Nope. There it is. Da, 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 da. Okay, let's just check. Ouch. Everything's working. Oh, we're live. Okay, is that all good? Oh, it is. Don't believe it, there's a first time for everything. Right, so let's go edit. No tackling outdoors. Okay, let's go back to copy. Let's go. All right, all good. All right, thank you very much to the 3 people watching. Let's crack on. All right, that's good. Thank you to the 4 people that are in here. Oh, that's not ideal. Lovely. Ah. From the pit. Welcome everyone. Now, Christmas has arrived early this year, and look, what I've done is I've tagged in Whitey's Tackle and Camping in Treendale, which is my local store, and also Mo Tackle. Okay, so with that, both of them fantastic shops to deal with, and the East Coast has a slightly different fishing scene to the West Coast. They have a lot of species that we don't have. Okay, so what I've done is, if you need any fly tying materials, both stores. Hey Loey, how are you, bud? Is it? It says that it's on. It's not volume, is it? Because it's coming up with the orange. What about that? Maybe that's a bit. Maybe a bit closer, better. It's a directional microphone. Thank you very much for the input, bud. Okay. So, as I said, Christmas has arrived early. Okay. And what we're going to do tonight is I'm just going to show you a few different flies, okay, tied in real time. Now, I've got to be very careful here because unfortunately, thanks mate, I just moved it a little bit closer. Unfortunately, yeah, like to wave my hands around like I'm at a Southern European wedding, you know. An auction is one place you don't do that. Okay, so I have a bag of goodies here that have a variety of different products in them. Okay, now one thing that's very important when you do your fly tying, especially saltwater, is you need to have a variety of different materials. One of your most popular materials in saltwater is feathers. So what we've got here is a couple of grade 1 Ewing capes, bucktail, okay. Now, we also have prism tape, zonker strips, and what have you, but more about that later, okay. Now, the other thing too, on the East Coast, they have a very healthy luderick and blackfish fishery, and because of that, they also have the need for small, super strong hooks with a nice gauge, okay? So, Gamakatsu have a range of hooks that are called panfish hooks, okay? Because in America they have these little fish called panfish that apparently pull like steam trains, right? And what we have here, okay, whoops, so these are the Gamakatsu panfish hooks. Now, they come in sizes 8, 6, 4, 2 and 10. Now, size 8 and 6 panfish hooks are green, as you can see in the bottom of the packet there, okay, and all the other sizes are a jet black, okay. So with these hooks, these are a 4x strong hook. So these are 4 times stronger than your conventional hooks. Okay, well this provides us with a fantastic opportunity to use hooks that are super strong even though they're smaller. Okay, and then on top of that, you know that they won't let go when you're tying flies. Okay, normally with size 8s and 6s and the smaller sizes, you can bend them out with your fingers and not really have to use anything to pry them apart. When I brought these ones out, I couldn't even budge them. I had to use pliers. Okay, so with that, what I'm going to do is, you have different sized hooks for different applications. Normally here in Western Australia, we use size 6 in the rivers for your brim. 1/0s you can use at a pinch for your small mulloway. And then on top of that, the other thing I did was I managed to get some Gamakatsu big game SL12S hooks in size 6/0. This is the 4/0, right, and 6/0. These are a legendary saltwater fly tying hook. So what we're going to do is we're going to use those today to tie some flies, and we're going to try and do something a little bit out of left field that I haven't heard anyone really do before. But anyway, we'll worry about that when we start it. Now, first things first, we've got to get the camera zoomed in on the vise. Okay, so let's go down to about there. Right. Now, is that zoomed in or not? I want it to zoom in on the vise, not me. So what we're going to do is we're going to tie a really simple black brim fly. Black brim are the brim that we have in our waterways here in Western Australia. I think on the east coast they have a yellowfin brim as well that grows quite large due to the healthy populations of mysis shrimp that they find on the east coast. So these are the green hooked Gamakatsu panfish hooks in here, see? Right, so what I need to do here is I need to zoom in on that. Let's just get that going. No, I don't need that, I need that. Okay, come on. And they should start to zoom in there. There we go. We're onto it. Right, so as always, flies are only as good as the bed of thread that you tie them on. So what I'm going to do is I'm using a thread that's probably a bit large for this size hook, but that's okay, as that allows me to see it. Okay, and for some reason it's not zoning in on that. I think I know why. Excuse me for a second. Yes, we don't want to. We want to foreground focus. Is that going to work now or not? Okay, should do. Okay, had it set to face because of a factory reset. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to bring this back to, towards the eye. What I want to do here is I just want to do a little bit of thread there, and what we're going to do is we're going to make a foundation, okay, to put some eyes on here. Now with eyes comes down to personal preference. You can use the pre-painted lead eyes like these, okay. If you've got fast flowing water and you need to get deep quickly, these are a good option. Or you can have your traditional bead chain. Now that you can buy from Bunnings for I think $10. I think it was $10 for that whole handful of bead chains. And one dimension that you can add to your fly tying, this is plastic bead chain. If I use plastic eyes on these flies, what will happen is it'll cause it to float, okay? And when it causes it to float, you can fish it with a really heavy shooting head, and the fly will be buoyant, and it'll look like a fish that's trying to get back to the bottom for safety, okay? So what we're going to do is, because this is a smaller fly in the size 6, I do have a smaller bead chain size here. Now, when you're tying your flies and that, most of it's about balance, okay? You've got to make sure that you've got the right size components for the size of hooks that you're using, okay? Come on. Yeah, I need to fix that. Come on. Right. Probably shouldn't have started the live stream without checking, but you don't know these things. Okay, so there's our pliers. Right. There we go. Bring that in here. What I'm going to do now is, super glue is your friend, okay? I use Loctite gel mainly because it's a lot easier to manage than the stuff that you get in the tube. I like to spend a bit of money on my super glue. The gel's fantastic. Okay, so what we're going to do is just a little bit in there, and as you can see, what we've got now is we've got the basis of a fly that's going to be a bit of a hybrid between a Crazy Charlie and a Clouser Minnow. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to use the Crazy Charlie eyes on it, and then after we use the Crazy Charlie eyes, what we're going to do is we're going to do a Clouser type wing on it. Now these are really basic flies, but they work for some reason. So if you've got something that works, right, you don't really want to meddle with it. So, I mean, there's lots of theories on different types of flies that you can use. Okay, now see that there? See how much bigger this other bead chain is? This other bead chain you'd use on size, say 2, maybe 4s, okay? And then that way it just keeps the fly in balance from there. So we've got a beautiful set of eyes tied onto this hook. Now, when you're using small hooks like this, okay, you don't want to dress it too much. You want to keep it relative in terms of its proportion, okay? So what that means is I don't want the fly to be too bulky for the hook size that I'm using on it, okay? So what I've done there is I've got some Loon water-based head cement, okay? Now the good thing about Loon water-based head cement is you don't get high off it because the xylene-based stuff can really give your nostrils a hard time, okay? Now, what we do now is, because we've tied the hooks on the, the eyes on the hook there, what will happen is it'll right hook up, which means it'll be virtually snag free. So when you've got something that's virtually snag free like that, you can fish it in amongst the snags. To find fish, you need to find structure and shade. The two go hand in hand. So, you know, away we go. Now the biggest problem we're going to have is a lot of your bucktail, right, is too long for this fly. It's very rare to get a bucktail that's long enough for that. So the answer I have, ta-da! If you go into your local Spotlight store, you can buy carpet, which is the perfect length for these flies. Look at that. Dun, dun, dun. Beautiful. So the good thing about this is no animals had to die, I guess, to get the materials. So just give me a second. Keep an eye on that while it's drying. I'm just going to run off and grab the white carpet that I've got. That'll do. And here we are. Okay. So when you tie flies, right, and you go years without having materials before you know, you can start to tie and that, you learn to adapt. So what I've got here is I've got pink, purple and a light blue, okay? Pity they didn't have a yellow because of our white bait and that. So what I'm going to do here is, there we are. So basically what's happening there, okay, this I save for saltwater flies because those hooks there are better suited to 4Os and 6Os like this. Okay, now, sorry about this. What I might do, right, let's zoom out. Let's zoom out again. Come on. Thank you to the 9 people that have tuned in to watch the stream. Good work. Right, let's get this in the middle now. Hang on. Yep. And we'll go down to about there. So now hopefully it'll zoom in on that hook. Right. There we go. Right. Now, how's that looking? Great. I think I need to restart the stream, but I won't do that. I'll do that next time. The old saying, forewarned is forearmed, if you know what I mean. Okay, so with this here now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off a nice chunk of this white Berber carpet there, right, like so. So ironically, this has the same properties as the deer fur, because what we've got now is we've got these shorter fibres where it's actually joined to the carpet material. Now if I put that on this hook, that's going to be okay, but it may not be enough to sort of dress it properly, right? So what we'll do is we'll get another big chunk of this white Berber carpet like that. Okay, bring that in there. Okay, like so. Okay, and what this is going to do is just dress that nicely. Beautiful. Dress that nicely. So what we have now is I have a couple of layers. Right, there we are. Lovely. Now what I'm going to do, how you cut the shape of your material is virtually the shape of the head that's going to form, right? So I don't want the cut to be longer than the distance between the back of the eye of the hook, right, and the eyes. So see that there, how I've just slotted that in, and that will taper. And just excuse me for a second. Right, let's just get that right as we go in here like so. Beautiful. Bring that down either side of the hook as evenly as you can. Right, and then what we've got is whoops. Nice little taper in there. Okay. Now, before I use any form of head cement, what I need to do is I need to clean this out like that. Beautiful. So what I've got now is I've got the eye that's unblocked. Okay. I've got a nice taper on the head of that fly, and basically I don't have too much to go before it's ready to fish. Now in here what I've got is I can use a variety of different things. What I might do though is I might just use a bit of this, because the waters that we're going to fish are quite dark and discoloured, right? So with that, what I can do, okay, is, has my chat played up again, has it? Oh, here we go. Excuse me for a second, people. Right, let's get back here. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to cut this roughly the length of the fly. Okay, now I've got a couple of odd strands here. Okay, we want to sit this on top of the fly, so it goes between this bottom wing, right, and the top wing of material. So we'll just bring that down like that. Let me bring that down like that, like so. Right, now you don't have to go too fancy with your flies, okay? Just keep it basic. So what I'm going to do is just going to use nice even force. Right, and I'm going to get that to grip up the top. Going to cut that off down the bottom, and what I've done is I've kept that nicely tapered like so. Okay, and what we're getting is we're getting a fly, proportion wise is pretty good. I like to tie my flies so they're roughly twice the length of the hook shank. Okay, so this is just about there. Now what I'm going to do is this. I'm just going to get a little bit of water-based head cement, okay, just to hold the bottom one in, and then what I'm going to do from there is when I finish this fly off, for some reason I personally find that flies with a red head work best where I like to fish, and white flies like this with a little bit of the pearlescent mylar and that sort of stuff in there, what that does is in darker waters when you use white flies, and I got this from Bob Clouser when I wrote for a book a few years ago in the States, and I got Bob on my Facebook, and I said, Bob, why do you use white flies? He says, because what happens is with white flies, when you fish waterways with dark waters, they usually change the colour of the fly to a shade that matches the bait fish in the water. And I was absolutely floored by that comment because, you know, obviously he knows his stuff. And from experience and testing it out, he's spot on, right? So, yeah, there's a few sayings in your fly tying, fly fishing, and lures and that. When in doubt, use white, okay? Big hooks catch big fish, small hooks catch everything, okay? Now, with these panfish hooks in the 4 strong sizes, in the smaller sizes that are painted green, thanks to the advice from the guys at My Tackle out there, okay, I'm totally confident that these hooks will handle the aggressive takes of larger brim, okay. Sorry about that. The old carpet doesn't taste the best. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is just going to bring that back. That's a little trick that you can use when you fly tie. As long as you get the base of your material sorted, you can retract it slightly and it will come back in the vise and still grip. Okay, so what we have there now is, whoops, nice little fly, nice little bulky head on it, okay, a little bit of junk at the front, but we can sort that out once again. Rightio, good work. Don't overheat the hook too much, because what will happen is the metal will get hot, anything that's around it will get hot as well, and the last thing, I mean, if you're using solvent based head cement, right, last thing you want is your fly to go up. All fly tying materials are very flammable. All right, there we go. So what we've done, okay, is, that's a beautiful little fly, okay? I'd have total confidence using that. Now, I don't know whether you can see this, right, but see where the head cement from underneath the fly has been seeping through the new pattern? Sorry, the new tie on top of it to finish it. Now, what we're going to do is, and this is the beauty of rotary vices, right, this is why I like rotary vices. So what I can do is, I can just get in here with some $2 head cement. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. Technically it is head cement, but it's actually nail varnish or polish, whatever you want to call it. Very embarrassing going into the chemist and going, "Hi girls, you got any nail polish on special?" And they all look at each other and laugh, and I go, "Yeah, I'm just tying flies with it." They go, "Sure you are, big boy. Thanks for that." Ah, dear. I just go to a different chemist the next time, you know. Ta-da! So what we've got there now is, we have got a fly that's got a beautiful red head on it. The classic white top wing and white underwing. Okay, let me just make sure that's clean. Yes, right, and away we go. So that's a beautiful little fly. I don't think the green hook is going to affect it much. Now let me show you one little tip that I like to do when I do my fly tying. And remember, with this and with the fly tying, all views of my own, see how I've tied the top wing and the bottom wing a bit longer than the pearlescent material in here. The reason why that is, in the water, that'll actually close in over the top of it, and that'll actually form a beautiful little profile like that. Even if I wet it now, see that? And what you've got is, you've got a far more lifelike profile, if you see what I'm saying there. Far more lifelike profile, and with that, you know that it will give you a better chance of hooking a fish. Now that pattern there, I've gone fishing with a very good friend of mine that's an ex-brim tournament fisher, and between us we've caught and released, you know, 70 fish in a few hours at one of the local rivers, and I will be taking us down there again to fish that area. So now that that's done, okay, and look, when you start fly tying, a lot of people get put off by fly tying. Don't psych yourself out of it, right? The best thing to do is just tie a really simple pattern, and then the next time you go to tie a fly, once you've figured out how to tie the simple pattern properly, right, you've got to learn your proportions and all that sort of stuff, right? Then what you do, try one that's a little bit more complicated, that's, say, got an extra step in it, okay? So what I can do is I can show you what I mean by that now, okay? So what we'll do, let's have a look. Now normally size 6 is a really popular size for black brim in our waterways, right? But because we're doing this as an instructional form, right, what I'm going to do is, the next fly that I'm going to tie is going to be a size 4, okay? And with that size 4 fly, what I'm going to do is, just to show you a slightly different variation of this, right? This is the sort of fly that you would use if you were fishing a river that had a stronger current in it. So with the with this fly, if you've got your summer levels, right, and you're trying to fish the waterway for your standard size brim, then it's a great option. This one here is going to be a slightly more weighted fly, right? And what this is going to do is this is going to show you basically how to tie a fly that's a similar profile, a little bit bigger, okay, and then that way it allows you to basically gauge how you're going with your fly tying. Now, a lot of the bait fish in our waterways here are a light brown, or they have a gold tinge. So what we're going to do is, once again, one thing I've always said is a fly that you tie is only as good as the bed of thread that you tied on. Okay, so what we'll do here is we'll just bring that through here. Lovely. Okay, so now we'll give it a little bit of water-based head cement. Okay, so the product that I've got here, my understanding it's referred to as mylar tubing, right? See that there? Now, some people like to put this onto the fly and sleeve it on. What I think we'll do, now this is going to be a very similar fly to the last one, right? Hang on. With the only variation being that I'm just going to put a little bit of this on as body, right? And then what I'll do, so just work my way to the front of the fly, okay, to about here. Okay, lovely. So now what we do is this. We'll just, this is the beauty of a rotary vise. Look at that. This is an absolute cheat code, this rotary vise. So what this is going to do is just give it a little bit of a gold body. Okay, right. Then what we're going to do is here, we're just going to bring that over there. All right, we want to leave room to tie the eyes in. Okay, quick snip in there. What we'll do now is we'll fasten that in, right, and then we've already got a nice taper going on that head. We just do a couple of little beds for the eyes there. And now, if we're going to be fishing deeper, faster flowing water, and this hook is a slightly bigger size, then what I recommend we do is we just use a slightly bigger bead head eye, or use one of the lead ones, if you know what I mean. So what I'm going to do here is, I've got the end of it there, okay. So the reason why I like to use pliers is these pliers have that little cavity there at the front. So when you go to cut it, right, it always catches it in the little cavity, and you don't have the eyes start flying everywhere. It's a bit like Jesus clips when you're a mechanic. You got to take the spring off and you hear doing and you go, oh Jesus, where did that go, you know? Okay, so what we do now is, whoops, so this is a slightly bigger eye, okay. Now remember, my intent with this fly was I wanted a slightly bigger fly that I could fish faster flowing water with, okay. So it might look a little bit out of proportion, but with what we're going to do, we're going to make it spot on, okay. So there we go. As you can see, this fly is a much heavier gauge, and being a heavier gauge like that, what it does is allows us to basically use the heavier materials on it. In this case it's the eyes, right? And then if we've got heavier water, so faster flowing water, just gives us an option to fish a fly that's not going to be too much bigger, if you see what I mean, but it's going to be significantly bigger in terms of proportion with this. Okay, just excuse me a second. Okay, now what I want to do now is I can use the same material on this, okay, and I can actually dress this a little bit heavy, if you know what I mean. Now the good thing about these flies is when they go in the water, if you fish it with a loop, they usually drop head first and head straight from the bottom. And then when you retrieve them with an erratic retrieve, they do genuinely look like a little bait fish that's trying to get back to the bottom to structure to find safety. Okay, so where are we here? Like that. Okay, so what we've got now is, God, it looks like a pom-pom, doesn't it? So what I'm doing here is I'm just sorting out all the smaller fibres. So this is the bit where it's joined to the base of the carpet. Okay. Okay, lovely. So what I have here now is I have a fairly decent chunk of material. You always try and put the material so it's got an even amount either side of the hook. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we've got a very, very small room to move here between the eyes that we've tied onto the hook shank and the eye of the hook. So, no, don't do that, come on. Excuse me for a second. It's about the only thing that I can sort of, there we go. Right, would have been nice, it was just a little bit longer in the hook shank, but beggars can't be choosers, you know. So there we go, all right. We've managed to fasten that on, and that's a beautiful taper on the head of that fly already. That would have been already predetermined by the wraps we'd done underneath it when we put a little bit of body on there as the variation, if you know what I mean. Hang on a second. So basically with that, there we go. I always like to use my fingers to do a half hitch, because one thing you can feel with your fingers that you can't feel with a half hitch tool is tension. Okay, so there we go, lovely. Now basically what we've done is the only step that we've changed in here, we've just put a little bit of a body on it, much like a Crazy Charlie, how they're tied traditionally. Okay, now excuse me for a second, just going to get a little bit more water-based head cement. Okay, in there, nicely done. What I can do now is, okay, there we go, I can just get myself some more of this pearlescent material here. Okay, these are the sort of flies that you can tie to fish at night as well, if you tie the material that glows in the dark. Right, now remember what I said to you, with the tail of this, you want this material just to come in, just inside of that, so that we can put our, no, let's do that again. Alright, this is going to turn out to be a reasonably complicated fly because we don't have as much room to work with as we'd like to, okay? So, now I've got that there, lovely. Tie that in, come on. Water-based head cement on your fingers doesn't help either. No, that's not, I'm not happy with that. We're going to do that again. Yes. I haven't let that really dry. So let's just leave that. We'll get a bit more of this material. Now I'll leave some of the longer stuff and I'll just leave some of the shorter stuff. Right. And look, while you're learning to tie flies and that sort of stuff, you can probably tie a couple of these every half an hour, right? So, you know, don't be afraid to give it a go. Don't let failure be a deterrent. Just think of it as a learning curve, right? You've got to learn to fail before you learn to, no, that's not going to work, come on, bud. You've got to learn to fail before you can succeed, if you know what I mean. That's better, come on. Much better. Nicely done. Yeah, I need to sort out this vise, I think. That's better. Okay. Thankfully, that tink noise wasn't the hook snapping. It was just the hook being pushed out of the vise. There we go. We'll work that back. Lovely. So what we have now is we have 3/4 of the fly done. Probably 4/5 actually, if you treat the initial tying of the eyes as one of the steps in tying it, which is fair enough. Okay, so as you can see here, nicely tapered head on it, okay, beautiful angle. The reason why that's important is flies have a beautiful action in the water, provided you can get water to flow over them, okay? And that's always one of the things you're going to do. So this is going to ride hook up. The moment you cast it, it's going to turn, okay? And when it turns, what it'll do is it'll go hook up, it'll go straight to the bottom. So when you retrieve it, it'll imitate either a fish or a shrimp, and it'll just kick up little tufts of dirt and that sort of stuff as you're going along. Okay, and these are really good basic flies to tie, and they catch fish. If you want to tie them for freshwater, you tie them in black, olive and brown. If you want to tie them in salt water, you do the white like I've done, or you do a white underwing with the pearl, and then you put a yellow wing over the top, okay? But I don't have any yellow in this special carpet. So let me just get this now. There we are. Okay. All right, once again, this fly is far from over, as we have a very small distance between the eye of the hook and the eyes that I've tied into the fly. So what I'm going to have to do is I need to make this, yes, might need some new scissors, I think. Who's been borrowing my scissors? Okay. Now, let's bring that back here. Doesn't help when you've got gorilla hands. I'll give you the tip. Let's bring that back. Okay, so what I've done there is I've managed to fasten it right between the eyes, and now what I've got is a little bit of a problem. I'm going to have to like taper that to and fro. Like that. Beautiful. That turned out okay. Let's just have a look. Yeah, we've got plenty of room to put a leader in there. But what I'm going to do with this, whoops, I'm not going to tie it off at the eye of the hook. What I want to do is I want to just give this, don't do that, just in here, like so. Whoops, that was less than ideal. Okay, might have to invest in a new pair of scissors there, Famo. Let's just get that out of there. Okay, lovely. Beautiful. Let's just clean that out. Lovely. All right, so once we've got this sorted out in the vise, what we have here, okay, is we have a similar profiled fly to the first one that we tied, right? And look, yeah, I did leave myself a bit short in terms of distance on the head, but that's all right. We've just adjusted our tying and that sort of stuff. Right. I'm going to have to do something to address the light in this room for fly tying. It doesn't do any favours. Right. Now what I'm going to do is just a little bit more nail varnish. Okay, like so. And what we've got is a lovely redhead, white. I don't know whether it's a Clouser or a Crazy Charlie. It's a bit of both. You don't really want to call it a Crazy Clouser, because it sort of makes a mockery of both fly ties that originally tied them. Now, in here, that's the first fly that we tied. Now, as you can see, right, even though I've got a size 8 hook on top and a size 4 hook on the bottom, the size 8 hook, in terms of how much we've dressed it with and length, it is a lot thinner in profile. Got to remember, when fish are this length, they're not overly thick, okay? As they get thicker, they get slightly longer. So, you know, this will be roughly the same size like fly in terms of dressing and length. But the good thing about that is, if you've got larger fish, okay, as I said, if you've got larger fish, that will sink quicker, turn over straight away, okay, and you'll be able to fish it in territory where there's big fish without fear of the hook snapping. Now, I don't think you're going to have any headaches with the size 6 Gamakatsu panfish hooks, because they are as strong as an ox as well. So thankfully, with a bit of knowledge at a store that people actually fish there, okay, it just makes it easier for everyone. So that's basically our that's basically our fly tying stream for tonight. We've just done a couple of different flies. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'd like to appreciate the fact that 10 people gave up their time to watch the stream. We now have 5 left in chat, so thank you for that. Please hit the thumbs up. Oh, hang on. Hand singles and myself. Right, so please hit the thumbs up to let YouTube know that people are watching our content. And I'll see you again over the weekend where we do some more fly tying. The good thing about this, with Mo Tackle and Whitey's Tackle and Camping here, look, this has rekindled the interest in the fly tying, especially these hooks, because I've had quite a few hooks over the years that have failed. I mean, I like Camasan hooks. I think they're a very nice hook, but in a lot of the smaller sizes, okay, I've had smaller sizes snap on me, which, you know, they're not really designed for bream, they're more designed for trout. These things are designed for anything that bites what's attached to them and they'll hold, which is just, you know, unheard of. I mean, if you had told me years ago you would have had hooks like this that were 4 times strong, I would never have believed you. All right, keep being awesome. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. Catch you over the weekend. Bye for now.